Minister of St. Maarten, the Honorable Dr. Luc Mer, accompanied by the Secretary General of the Council of Ministers. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing at the entrance of the President of Parliament. The President of Parliament, the Honorable Mrs. Sarah Westcott Williams.
Members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, all following this meeting via media, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, have established a quorum of 11 members. I open this solemn meeting, which has been convened to commemorate the 15th anniversary of the attainment of St. Maarten's new constitutional status as a constituency within the kingdom of the eruption of 15 of this status. I invite all to stand for a moment of silence. Please remain standing for the song to be performed by Mr. Sean Jacques after the moment of silence, which begins now. Thank you. Please remain standing.
Where over the world, where you find an island there, so love them all with nations free. French and Dutch, though talking English, as the St. Maarten in the sea. Oh, sweet St. Martin's land, so bright by beach and strands, with sailors on the sea and harbors free, where the chains of mountains green variously is sunlight seen. Oh, love thy paradise, nature's beauty really nice. Oh, love thy paradise, nature's beauty fairly nice. How pretty between all greens, flamboyance big gleam, and flowers red, and sunlight sets, like cows and sheep and goats, in meadow or on roads, thy donkey's skin I can't forget. Oh, sweet Martin's land, so bright by beach and strands, with sailors on the sea, harbors free, where chains of mountain, various is sunlight sheen. Oh, I love paradise, nature's beauty fairly nice. Oh, I love paradise, nature beauty fair nice. St. Maarten, a name in Columbus came, and memories of our close. For me a delight, thy southern's the night, Mother Lord, oh take thy coast. Oh, sweet St. Martin's land, so bright by beach and strands, with sailors at sea and harbors free, where the chains of mountains green There is light sheet, oh, of thy paradise. Nature's beautifully nice. Oh, I love thy paradise. Nature's beautifully nice.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you again. Please. I have received notice of absence from the Member of Parliament, Franklin Myers. For the location, we have several invitees. So at this time, I would like to welcome, of course, the honorable members of Parliament, the honorable ministers of the Council of Ministers, the honorable Vice President of the Court of Justice, the honorable judge presenting the Constitutional Court, the acting governor, General of the Council of Ministers, Secretary General of the Courts, Director of the Integrity Chamber, Secretary General to the Ministries of Government, Representative of the Netherlands in Philipsburg, Director of the Cabinet of the Governor, President of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Director of the St. Maarten Development Fund, President and members of Parliament, former Governor, former of Parliament, former Prime Minister, former Lieutenant Governors, former Secretary General of Parliament, specially invited guests, our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome. I will now appoint the members of the Return and Departure Committee, and for this committee, I appoint the following members of Parliament: Christopher Weaver, Ludmila de Weaver, Darrell York. I will adjourn so the members of the reception and the party can proceed to the entrance of the Parliament building, wait at the stairs to receive and escort the governor and his entourage to the Legislative Hall of Parliament. I hereby adjourn this meeting. I hereby open the meeting and ask you to please rise for the arrival of Excellency the Governor. I now welcome His Excellency the Governor and his entourage to this solemn meeting, which has been convened to commemorate the 15th anniversary of the attainment of St. Maarten's constitutional status as a constituent country within of the Netherlands. On Friday, October the 10th this year, St. Maarten marked its 15th anniversary attainment of the status of constituent country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, making St. Maarten one of the 4 countries within the Kingdom. It is on that day, October the 10th, 2010, 15 years ago, that the Parliament of St. Maarten came into existence. It is aforementioned in mind that this meeting was convened today, October the 13th, 2025, which is the official day in celebration of our Constitution Day. Today, we are to have several speakers who will reflect on the 15 years of country status for St. Maarten. And at this time, I would invite Mr. Ralph Cantav, the 2015 President of Parliament Award recipient, for his presentation. Mr. Cantav.
All right. One. First off, I'd like to thank God for the opportunity here and for blessing me with who did their absolute best to ensure that I to life. Then I would also like to extend my gratitude to Madam Chair Lady for the invitation. And so greetings to all of you who are here in this room and to everyone streaming or listening online or via radio. I wondered which generation experienced the best of St. Maarten. There was a generation that was blessed to a pure, unspoiled land before it became exploited. That unspoiled nature was short-lived as colonizers arrived on our white beaches with munition power to pillage our natural resources. And for the following generations, it was suffocating as they grew up not knowing freedom among the few who knew of its power and privilege. 200 years later, the surviving generations got hold of it and celebrated it with jubilant expressions like the Panam dance. This newly freed people toiled the ground qualifications while establishing the soul of St. Maarten. This was no easy task. As economic pressures mounted, many families boarded the Antilles ALM to nations near and far, journeying with the hope that this nation, precious land, and those left behind would be taken care of. So the generations that knew hard labor, sacrifice, gave birth to a generation that met the dollar. This generation reaped great benefits from the foreign exchange brought by tourism. But as the conveniences increased, so did the challenges, such as the cost of living, food, and energy insecurity. But over time, the soul of St. Maarten became distressed, burdened. We forgot that we are our brother's keeper and that every child is a child of the village. We forgot that the natural environment deserves protection and generally for us ought to be cared for. We forgot we matter and that we are not for sale. Several generations of Maarten children have grown up who are growing up unable to see the value of this country, untaught of their rightful place in it. Should we give up hope and sell what remains of this precious land? Absolutely not. 15 years since 10-10-10, the value of St. Maarten has actually increased in its allure, its appeal, and development. Yet our generation was not prepared to steward and lead the course of St. Maarten. But rather than lament our failures and setback, I am motivated, and I think motivated, by the future that we can build. Steel, bricks, concrete. Why? Because the aforementioned are our best assets, this which is our spine. Bricks being our education, our capacity and skills. Concrete being our faith, and the land being our very minds. It embrace a mindset of nation building and secure a future that's not only resilient, but also prosper for all. Let us invest in a foundation that is stable and secure, where every child can stand on with confidence and hope. This status is fairly new, but our soul, to St. Maarten, it's mature. It is time we ensure that present and coming generations are taught to lead with knowledge, wisdom, and humility. It is time that we teach them to be producers and not consumers, to serve their country and fellow citizens with love and compassion. Let us build an environment that makes it ideal to start a family, to start a business with access to quality education, healthcare, and housing. My belief is absolute, because we have the steel, we have the concrete, and we have the land. Let's start by honoring those who committed their lives to a better nation. Persons like the late Louis and Reinhold Groeneveld, including those among us today who consistently kept us sharp, like Joan LaValle Mate, Gaston Bell, Dr. Dern. This is but a mere fraction, notwithstanding public servants, community leaders, business owners, profit organizations, and the taxpayers who continue to give and want to see a difference. So I end by asking, what will you do to see that the next generation of St. Maarten experiences the best of this land? Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Cantav, for your inspiring presentation. And allow me to say, proud I am of you, your progress from your U.S. student days when you received the award. Congratulations, Ralph. Thank you. We all wish you much success as you continue to grow and contribute in that fervent way to St. Maarten. Thank you again. Before going over to our speaker, allow me to acknowledge the presence of the chairperson of the SER and note of a notification received from MP for his absence from this meeting. And now, it is a great pleasure to give the floor to Roshana Richardson, the 2016 of Parliament Award recipient, for her presentation. Ms. Richardson, you have full floor.
Have already been established. I bid you a pleasant and good morning to one and all. It is with heart and unwavering pride that I stand before you today, pouring my soul into reflecting on an incredible journey of our beloved St. Maarten since October 2010, a day imprinted into history as the dawn of a new beginning. A moment when we truly step to the promise of self-determination within the kingdom balance. From that pivotal day, we embrace sacred responsibility to craft our own destiny, to forge a path by our hopes, our struggles, and our relentless spirit. The road has not always been smooth, but every we have taken is a testament to our resilience, our courage, and our unwavering hope. From the perspective of us, this journey has been nothing short of transformative, filled with moments that inspire us and challenge us to the very core. We have grown amidst the complex process of learning to govern ourselves, of rebuilding disastrous and devastating storms, and learning what true progress means for all of us. We've watched leaders wrestle with in difficult issues, from the GB saga, education reform, to economical survival. And in these moments, we have seen our incredible strength of communities coming together in times of crisis. Yet, among these fires, we have also felt the ache of unmet needs. Time and time again, we see our young, talented sinners leave our shores in search of better opportunities, and we feel deep within us the raw wounds of limited to quality education, mental health support, and meaningful employment, just to name a few. Many times I would hear of, Rashana, I would love to go back home. But what exactly am I coming back home to? When I do decide to apply for a job, it's either no from the establishment, you're overqualified, or you just do not have the experience needed for the job. My question to our beloved community, if we are afforded the same opportunity as those other candidates that are brought in from foreign to do the same job, how will we be able to gather the experience needed? Why can't we be given the same opportunity to prove ourselves? But guess what? Sometimes it's sad to say, to successfully make it in St. Maarten, it is by whom you know. But despite goals, hope is our anchor. We believe wholeheartedly that change is possible, and we are more than ready to be craft to form that change. We envision a St. Maarten where every young person has access to world-class education, not merely to pass just exams, but to discover our true purpose in life. Where mental health is just not a national priority, supported by equitable care and nurturing communities. Where innovation and entrepreneurship thrive, fueled by visionary policies and cutting-edge digital tools. Where our youths are just not heard, but these are the voices that lead, inspire, and shape our next generation. Artificial intelligence stands as a powerful ally in this pursuit. It can personalize learning, elevate public services, empower entrepreneurs, enhance disaster preparedness, and amplify the youth. But we must apply this tool with wisdom, guided by ethics, transparency, and an inclusive spirit, so that AI serves justice and equality for all. Receiving this President Award was just not an honor. It was a powerful reminder that our voices, our hopes, and our dreams do matter. Since that day, I have decided to dedicate to advocacy, service, and leadership. They say service is just not a title, but it is a vow to serve with integrity, passion, and a deep sense of responsibility. Today, I'm currently pursuing a master's in international relations and diplomacy, eager to return home better equipped to contribute meaningfully to our governance and development. As part of it, I am studying how artificial intelligence can impact feminist policies in the Caribbean, a bridge between technology, gender equality, and a global diplomacy, in emphasizing that our potential is limitless. We must confront our uncomfortable truth of our place within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. St. Maarten is just not a minor part of a bigger whole. We are proud people with a rich culture, a vibrant identity, and a shared vision for a brighter future. It is time to revise the Kingdom Charter to reflect true equality. We need more than just a symbolic representation of ministers or plenipotentiary. We need a true and embedded hope. State secretaries within the ministries in The Hague, actively shaping policies that affects one and all. This is the only way our interests truly honored and acted upon. The rise tide of youth violence, gang conflicts, drug abuse, brutal unemployment demands our urgent, compassionate response. We must create opportunities for our St. Maarten people first and foremost. We must build a nation that nurtures its people, respecting our lands inherited from our ancestors, educate our professionals aligned with our economical dreams, and providing rehabilitation and community policing to heal and unify. Crime is just not an issue. It is a cry for help and a call to action. We must respond swiftly with love, strategy, and unwavering resolve. We should not be so eager to sell our property that our forefathers and great-grandparents sacrificed and passed on to us as an inheritance. Therefore, protecting generational wealth for our people, way of owning land, self-employment through business and entrepreneurship. This is what made St. Maarten great. Let us return this nation back to the times where our own people own their own businesses, own homes, and own properties. We begin to instill this type of ambition, love, and passion into our children first. This must be developed through the nation building in our sweet St. Maarten land by our indigenous people, as well as who have made St. Maarten their home. Lastly, we must be vigilant in controlling immigration. Not exclude, but to protect the integrity of our society, to give priority to our own people and safeguard our future. We aspire to establish St. Maarten as a Caribbean economic hub, developing our tourism through beautification and infrastructure, exploring innovative financing, and managing growth with care and foresight. Strengthening regions is not optional, it is vital. Through cultural exchanges, trade, and shared innovation, we can forge a Caribbean that stands united, resilient, and proud on a world stage. Unity among members of Parliament and Council of Ministers is essential. Without cooperation, progress stalls, dreams are delayed, and our futures dims. We stand divided. When we stand divided, we let every opportunity slip away. But when we come together, guided by a love for our land and a collective vision, there is nothing we cannot achieve. As I conclude, these are the areas we must maintain our focus at all times. Our children, our disabled, our homeless, our youth, our unemployed, our working class, our business sector, as well as our seniors. As I conclude, let us please remember that October 10th, 2010 was more than a political milestone. It was the heartbeat of our hope, the sacred promise that St. Maarten would rise from the ashes, rebuild with courage, and dream beyond the horizon. That promise ignited a fire within us, a call to action that refuses to fade. Today, that fire burns brighter than ever in the hearts of our youth, ready to carry that vow for passion and unwavering resolve. We are not merely seeking a seat at the table. We are building the table, shaping a future born of our dreams, our resilience, and our unbreakable spirit. Let us hold fast to the promise spoken in Jeremiah 29, verse 11, that says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future." May this truth be the foundation of our courage, the compass of our leadership, and the heartbeat of our unity. Together, let us build a St. Maarten that shines a beacon of hope, brilliant, endless possibilities. God bless the people of St. Maarten, and God bless this land. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna Richardson. And you too. It has been a pleasure, continues to be a pleasure to witness you in your growth since recipient of the President of Parliament Award. I could not find it in me to remind you of the time, because every time I thought about doing it, I will hear your next sentence and the next and the next. Thank you for completing your entire present. But I must ask the other speakers to take the time into consideration, please, as this program is part of our entire day's celebration. But thank you so much once, Anna. Thank you for that presentation. In fact, if I had the opportunity to change my message in the time capsule to future generations, which was a message with a trepidation, I can say to both Mr. Cantav and Ms. Richardson, I would have changed that with a little more optimistic view because of the two of you and like yourself. Thank you both once again. The Secretary General reminded me if I was even thinking in earnest about that, it's already sealed. Thank you so much. The pleasure continues today as I'm happy, and along with me, our entire point, to have the first President of Parliament, Dr. Anders Gracita Arendel, who is our current Minister Plenipotentiary for St. Maarten in The Hague, also present with us here today, virtually, of course. And it is my pleasure as well to give the floor now to Dr. Anders Gracita Arendel for her speech, reflection, and presentation. Dr. Anders Arendel, you have the floor virtually.
Yes. Good afternoon. Can everyone see me and hear me?
Here.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Anders Arendel,
Chair
you're not
of Parliament,
yet
the
in
Honourable Sarah
picture.
Westcott Williams, Honourable Members of Parliament, His Excellency Governor Ajamu Bailey, Government and Honourable Prime Minister Dr. Luc Berselina, former Presidents of Parliament, President of the Youth Parliament, Secretary Generals, invited guests, people of St. Maarten. Ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to give thanks and express my deep gratitude for having been part of St. Maarten's historic constitutional journey. I am humbled to have played a small yet meaningful role in shaping several key aspects of this process. Thank you, Chair Lady, for the opportunity to once again have the floor. This journey was not mine alone. Many individuals, past and present, contributed significantly, from commissioners for constitutional affairs, lieutenant governors, dedicated civil servants, the Constitutional Affairs Work Group, WGC, and sub-work groups, island councils, our schools, unions, churches, the Bankers Association, and every segment of civil society. Your contributions helped bring us to this moment. Some of these contributors are no longer with us, but their impact remains etched in our nation's constitutional story. We must also acknowledge the involvement of our partners within the kingdom, including numerous state secretaries responsible for constitutional affairs. After decades of discussions and negotiations between the Netherlands and the islands of the former Netherlands Antilles, 2 referenda marked by vital turning points for Sint Maarten. The first, held in October 14, 1994, was one I had the honor of organizing and chairing under the auspices of the United Nations. The second and decisive referendum in June 2000, led by Mr. Richard Gibson Sr., laid the foundation for the eventual dismantling of the Netherlands Antilles. Curaçao's final referendum was held on May 15, 2009. And 1 year later, October 10, 2010, the final curtain was drawn on what was once the constitutional arrangement Netherlands Antilles. I must say honestly, Chair Lady, dear radio listeners, that personally, this period was not without its challenges. At the time, being a one-member faction leader, a member of the opposition, championing principles such as good governance, transparency, and accountability, speaking truth to power, came at a cost. It was not always appreciated, but I remain steadfast and above all, grateful. These experiences made me stronger, not bitter, and more resilient, just like our beautiful island, Sint Maarten, bouncing back from every setback with renewed determination. It shaped my resolve to give my utmost in every task assigned to me, with a goal of making a meaningful difference for our people and our country. For this, I am grateful. Esteemed audience, on becoming the first President of Parliament, I was asked to share my personal experience as the first person to lead our Parliament and to reflect on the constitutional future of our country. This is no small task, and certainly not one that can be covered in just 8 minutes. Nevertheless, I will be as brief with the hope of sharing more in-depth reflections in writing as part of the important process of nation building. I recall vividly, at a time, I was handed a key to an empty building and expected to begin conducting the people's business. Understanding the weight of that responsibility, I knew there was little room for experimentation and no room for failure. With the support of the members of that first Parliament, we worked tirelessly to lay a strong foundation, one that has carried us to where we are today. It's important to remember that that first Parliament ensured that laws in various stages of its development from the Netherlands Antilles were timely adopted. Had we failed to meet these deadlines, many laws would have had to be developed from scratch. Simultaneously, we established the High Council for State, the Council of Advice, the General Audit Chamber, the Socio-Economic Council, and last but not least, the Office of the Ombudsman, an institution I had the honor of championing for our country. Recognizing the importance of preparing and connecting with future parliamentarians, the first Parliament introduced, among others, the President of Parliament Youth Award. I am pleased to see that this tradition continues as it lifts and encourages our young people, our youth, to be great and exemplary future leaders. 15 years later, here,
Dr.
what should
Randis.
our citizens expect from the years ahead? These are some of the questions we must ask, not for political purposes, but for the genuine development of our nation and the well-being of every citizen. Finally, and before I close, I will share just 2 points of personal hope and expectations for our future. One, a parliament building. I hope that we will finally begin and complete the construction of our permanent parliament building. This must be a space where the people's elected representatives can conduct the nation's business with dignity, accountability, and purpose. The People's House, prominently located where laws are made and history propagates. Secondly, improving the quality of life of our citizens. My heartfelt desire is that our legislative efforts will be clearly reflected in an improved quality of life for every citizen. We must do better. For example, it was mentioned by one of our youth leaders, affordable housing should not be a luxury. A clean environment is not optional. Education is priceless. Healthcare must be accessible and affordable. These are not political promises. They are national imperatives anchored in our Constitution. I want to show you this little booklet that was prepared by Dr. Nelda Arduin, edited and compiled by Dr. Nelda Arduin, which is the Constitution of St. Maarten made simple. Ladies and gentlemen, the preamble of our Constitution starts with, "We, the people of St. Maarten." I will not read that preamble, but encourage everyone to get a print of this booklet. And if it's not in the schools, to distribute them back into our schools. Ladies and gentlemen, the road ahead. There's no time to meander. The digital revolution isn't waiting on us. It's moving ahead fast and unrelenting. We must prepare our people and institutions to meet this future with confidence and competence. Therefore, I was very happy to read the latest release of October the 7th by government, where, I quote, "Government embarks on a digital transformation, awareness and co-design for civil servants and stakeholders engagement," unquote. Our laws must be up to date to ensure a smooth and timely implementation of these efforts. In closing, I leave you with the same words I shared at a recent event here in The Hague. And I said, look left, out of the window, out of the cabinet, the People's Cabinet, here in The Hague. The quote, "We pause to commemorate our recent constitutional journey, marked by courage, vision, and a firm commitment to self-governance. Together, we must continue to build a legacy that the next generation will cherish and honor and pass forward." Thank you for the opportunity to share this reflection with you. To God be the glory in every successful collective step forward. May God bless the people of St. Maarten and our country. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Randis Arundel, the first president of the Parliament of St. Maarten. Thank you, Dr. Arundel, Dr. Randis Arundel, for in your presentation giving a quick review of the many persons who labored tirelessly during the years 2000 up until 2010. It would be remiss of me, in the context of Dr. Anders Arundel's presentation, speech, and thoughts, not to recognize, in addition to all of those mentioned, a lady who is now in retirement and worked at the Department of Constitutional Affairs of the island territory of St. Maarten. Why do I single her out? Because she was the one who convinced the young people of St. Maarten that the new country status was a way to go. That person is none other than Dorothy Lake, the one who went the extra mile, the one who guarded the young people as part of the Constitutional Youth Club. So today, when we look back, we can say we had a youth with us at the time. They are grown men and women today, but their contribution was invaluable. Thank you, all of those mentioned by Dr. Anders Arundel and Miss Dorothy Lake. I thank our current Minister Plenipotentiary, Dr. Anders Arundel, for her recollection of the establishment of the Parliament of St. Maarten and her thoughts and ideas. I want to now give the floor to the Prime Minister of St. Maarten, Dr. Luc Mercelina. Prime Minister, it is also my pleasure to give you the floor to address the people of St. Maarten on this auspicious occasion and give us your thoughts and reflections. Prime Minister Luc Mercelina, you have the floor.
Madam Chair Lady, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, as protocol has already been established, good morning. 15 years ago, on the historic day of October the 10th, 2010, the people of St. Maarten embraced a new chapter, one defined by hope, responsibility, and the promise of self-determination. On that day, we became not just a country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, but a people empowered to shape our destiny. Today, 15 years later, we stand as a testament to resilience. Through hurricanes, pandemics, economic challenges, and social transformation, the spirit of St. Maarten has not faltered. It has strengthened. Our journey has not been easy, but it has been purposeful. We have learned that nation building is not a destination, it is a daily commitment. It is in the policies we craft, the partnership we build, and the people we uplift. It is in the classrooms where our teachers mold young minds, in the hospital where compassion meets care, and in the hard work of every public servant, business owner, and citizen who contributes to the nation's progress. As we commemorate 15 years of country status, we must also look forward to the St. Maarten we are building toward. A St. Maarten that is energy secure, where we turn our natural challenges into sustainable opportunities. A St. Maarten that is economically diverse, reducing vulnerability and fostering innovation. A St. Maarten that is socially just, where prosperity is shared and every voice is valued. And above all, a St. Maarten that stands united, not just by geography, but by purpose. Let us continue this journey with renewed determination, guided by the lesson of our past and inspired by the limitless potentials of our people. The next 15 years must be defined by courage, collaboration, and compassion, so that the promise of 10-10-10 continues to live in every generation to come. May we move forward with conviction, knowing that our greatest strength lies not in our size, but in our unity and our will to progress. Sint Maarten, happy 15th anniversary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister Luc Merselina, for your words of hope, reflection, and good wishes for the future of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, members of Parliament, we now have the opportunity for the faction leaders in Parliament to address Parliament and the people of St. Maarten on this day. Each faction leader would have 3 minutes to share his or her thoughts on behalf of their faction. And I start with inviting MP Shamira Roseburg of the Unified Resilient St. Maarten Movement faction to take the floor. MP Roseburg, you have the floor.
Protocol having been established, I understand that some may view this day, Constitutional Day, as an unimportant and perhaps even as a meaningless day. After all, a day dedicated to a document can feel abstract when you are dealing with concrete challenges. And that's an understandable sentiment. But let us shift that perspective right now. This day is not about a piece of paper. It's about the living promise that was made to ourselves, a promise that we must renew and defend every single day. This is the moment we pause to measure our progress and to resolve to do better. Because democracy is never guaranteed. It survives only when people choose to defend it. Democracy around the world is under threat, from long-established nations to young countries like ours. Conflict, oppression, and the denial of basic human rights test the strength of our institutions and the resilience of our societies. When we look globally, places like Gaza and Palestine remind us of human cost when freedom is under attack, when voices are silenced, rights are denied, and people are prevented from fully shaping their future. But these challenges extend beyond war zones. They live in gender inequality, in restrictions on youth participation, and in the marginalization of the vulnerable groups. Democracy is not merely about elections or laws. It's about ensuring that every voice counts, every person is protected, and every citizen has an opportunity to thrive. Even within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the Council of State has recently warned that the democracy is under pressure. Their reports highlight a crucial truth. When politics become about power instead of service, democracy erodes. It reminded us that the health of democracy requires respect for minorities, strong and independent institutions, and free press and leadership, grounded in integrity. These global and regional warnings are lessons we must take to heart. Democracy is fragile, and even here in St. Maarten, it must be actively nurtured, strengthened, and protected. Indeed, an honest assessment of our 15 years of autonomy reveals a period characterized by turbulence and instability. In just 15 years, we have seen a destructive cycle lead to collapse of government on several occasions. This is the reality of a democracy under pressure. And it proves that the call for integrity and service over power is not abstract. It's an urgent necessity to protect the very foundation of our nation. On this Constitutional Day, we reflect on our journey as a nation and the responsibility we hold. This Parliament, only 15 years old, carries the duty to strengthen, safeguard, and uphold our democratic principles, ensuring the rights are respected, equality is advanced, and the voices of all citizens are heard, including our youth. And also prioritized, for example, through a referendum. 15 years of country. Yes, we have proven resilience through devastating national disasters, economic uncertainty, and political challenges. But at this point, resilience is no longer enough. Resilience keeps us standing. Thriving and flourishing moves us forward. It is time for our country to thrive, to climb the ladder of success for our people, to transform challenges into opportunities, and to flourish with integrity, unity, and purpose. As we pursue this vision of a flourishing Sint Maarten, we must also give thanks to the ones before us, to our pioneers, those who drafted the Constitution, for the status that we currently have. We are grateful for the commitment and sacrifice of every public servant who held the nation together. As I said, for Sint Maarten to truly thrive, we must be singular. Serve the country, give the people the best that you can, respect each other's role, and respect the trias politica. Discussions are necessary, but I believe that at this point, all noses should point in the same direction. Not because we always will agree on the method, but because our shared goal is absolutely clear: a stronger, fairer, and more prosperous Sint Maarten. Integrity must remain our foundation. Democracy is sustained not only by laws alone, but by the choices and character of those entrusted to uphold it. Constitution Day is a reminder not only of our past achievements, but of the responsibility we hold today to ensure our country moves forward, flourishing, thriving, rather than merely surviving. As we celebrate this milestone, let's pause to reflect and commit. Are we creating a Sint Maarten that thrives and flourishes for generations to come? Are we empowering and preparing our youth, especially the ones that are studying abroad, ensuring for equality for all, and providing the space for every voice to be heard? Are we also demanding a fair and legitimate voice in the kingdom? Because I believe we must continue to advocate for structural equal reforms to address the democratic legitimacy in the Kingdom Council of Ministers, ensuring that the primary decision-making body that affects our future is truly representative of all who are affected by the policies. I conclude, we are not yet where we should be, but with the right people, with real unity, with integrity as our guide, we will reach our full potential. As I said, resilience is where we begin. Thriving and flourishing is where we choose to go. We have stood firm, and now I believe it's time to rise and build the nation we promised ourselves. May God bless our nation, and may God bless the people of Sint Maarten. I thank you.
MP Roosburg, thank you so very much for your thoughts and contribution to this discussion as we observe 15 years of being a constituent country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. It is now my pleasure to give the floor to the next faction leader, and that is MP Doran of the National Alliance faction. MP Doran, you have the floor.
Greetings, one and all. Madam Chair,
As we gather in this honorable house on the occasion of Constitution Day, I first want to acknowledge what this day represents. It's not merely a date on the calendar, it's the foundation of our autonomy, the legal and symbolic birth of country St. Maarten. Yet, Madam Chair, I must also be honest. When I walk through our communities, when I sit and listen to our people, many say we are no better off today than we were 15 years ago. And I cannot ignore this sentiment, because behind those words are real frustrations, Madam Chair. With slow progress, bureaucracy, with promises and sentiments that feel so far out of reach. But I also believe that acknowledging the challenges does not mean we dismiss the significance of what we were able to achieve. Our Constitution gave us the right to govern ourselves, to make our own decisions, our own mistakes, our own path on the way forward. It gave us the power to choose, but also the responsibility to do better with the choices that we make. But did it, Madam Chair? Did it really? Because while we carry the title of autonomous country, the reality often reminds us autonomy on paper does not translate to autonomy in practice. We still operate within a framework where external influence weighs heavily on our internal progress, where major decisions seem to come from with strings attached, and where assistance sometimes is accompanied by limitation that challenges our ability to grow and stand on our own feet. That is the paradox of 10-10-10, where we were given wings, yet have to ask for permission to fly. And so, as we commemorate this day, we must do so with clear eyes and not a blind celebration, with honest reflection, because the Constitution, as powerful as it is, cannot fulfill its promises unless the people and the leaders have the freedom and the courage to live and to fulfill it. Still, I remain hopeful, because even with these constraints, we have shown resilience, we have rebuilt after devastation, we have governed through crises, and we continue to find strength within the spirit of our people. Madam Chair, when I hear the next generation spoke earlier, it gives me hope, because there's no success without a successor. That is a message for all of us here in this room, Madam Chair. Constitution Day should remind us that true autonomy is not simply declared. It is earned, it is protected, and it is exercised daily. It is pushed us to continue striving for the kind of St. Maarten that 10-10-10 promised, but has not yet fully delivered on. So yes, I say it. Happy Constitution Day, St. Maarten. But may it also be a day of reckoning, a day when we ask ourselves the hard questions and recommit to building the country that we truly want for our people. And we want to secure that everyone can have a better future, especially every and anyone that calls this land home. I remain committed to you, my people, as your humble servant. So truly help me, God Almighty. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Duran, for your words and thoughts on this day of reflection of our status attained in 2010. I continue with the faction leaders of Parliament, and I give the floor to MP Viren Kotai of the Democratic Party faction in Parliament. MP Kotai, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning to all, to my colleagues in Parliament, to distinguished guests in the Tribune, and my fellow people of St. Maarten. This past week, we marked a defining chapter in our nation's history. Friday, October 10th, marked 15 years since the birth of country St. Maarten, a day forever etched in our collective memory as 10-10-10. As we commemorate this milestone, we do so with pride, because the Democratic Party, under the leadership of Sarah Westcott Williams, delivered country status to the people of St. Maarten. It was the DP that led the constitutional transition from island territory to country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. It was the DP that laid the institutional foundation for our democracy, for Parliament, for the Council of Ministers, for key oversight institutions like the Ombudsman, the General Audit Chamber, and the early integrity frameworks that continue to guard our good governance today. The first Prime Minister of country Sint Maarten came from the Democratic Party. That was not coincidence. It was a symbol of trust, continuity, and stability at the very birth of our nation. 15 years ago, the Democratic Party helped give birth to the country Sint Maarten, not just with words, but with work. The framework of government was built, protecting our democracy, giving meaning to the phrase, country above self. As others build upon that foundation today, DP stands proud, still believing that leadership means service, and that true nationhood is measured not by status or symbols, but by the well-being of our people. So today, as we celebrate our Constitution, we do so by knowing that the Democratic Party's fingerprint are on every institution, every law, and every milestone that defines who we are as a country. DP will continue to stand for good governance, people-centered leadership, and the promise of a stronger Sint Maarten. I would hope we can all act as responsible citizens, uphold the Constitution's values, and contribute positively to society. 15 years later, our work continues, our commitment endures, and our belief in country above self remains unshaken. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Kotai, for that delivery on behalf of the faction of the Democratic Party and the members of Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue with the faction leaders in Parliament as I now give the floor to the faction leader of the United People's Party, MP Omar Otley. MP Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Protocol having been established. 15 years. Let's put it in context of human. You grow, you crawl, you walk, you stumble, you fall, you bruise, but you survive. We survived, and we are surviving. And although correctly MP Sarah Westcott Williams was mentioned, it would be remiss of me not to mention MP William Maarten, former Governor Eugene Holiday, Vance James, and much more. When I look in the Tribune, I see former lieutenant governors, former governor, presidents of parliaments, and former prime ministers. You are all the building blocks and steps for where we are today. And while some may say that they are not better off today, I can be one to differ. I have seen development in St. Maarten. I have seen increase, maybe not to the pace that we want, but I have seen it. I have seen development of airports, boardwalks, harbor, development of our tourism product. And we all have work to do, day by day. And I remember the days when politicians would walk the street and the people of St. Maarten would embrace them wholeheartedly. Somewhere, somehow, that has been lost. The people do not trust us anymore. So we have some rebuilding and rebranding to do. We tear down each other. And because we do this, we fail to highlight our progresses. There's a time for everything. There's a time to go at each other, and there's a time to be united. And we exemplified that on the floor of the Tweede Kamer in the Netherlands. Opposition members, coalition members stood together to represent this country. That is what it's about. And I pray to God, within the next 15 years, we will be here celebrating more progress. I said a phrase, and I'll end with it, in a time capsule. It says, your determination defines your life. Your ambition defines how great you make your life. Never let anyone, to our youth, discourage you from being who you are set out to be. Bumps, bruises, but we survive. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Otley, for your words and your contribution to this important discussion that St. Maarten is having today. I continue and I now offer the floor to the next faction leader to speak, and that is MP Rayon Peterson of the Party for Progress faction here in Parliament. MP Peterson, you have the floor.
Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair. A good morning to yourself and to all our esteemed guests here today. Madam Chair, as a Kingdom lawyer, I've often spoken here on the floor of Parliament for the respect that we must have for the Constitution. I've said that our people must learn to understand it and the intention of the legislators who wrote it, and not simply wait until Parliament or government invokes it when it is convenient and ignores it when it is not. Today, I feel some frustration. As someone who was not born here but born to be here, like some of my colleagues. Frustration because I see, like many must, the potential of St. Maarten. But that potential is weighted against 15 years where a lot has happened and still not much has happened. We have seen high rises go up and the literacy rate go down. We have been told that the economy has improved, but seen a considerable shrinkage in our middle class. This is not just on the part of successive governments and parliaments. There has been stagnation at many levels. Persons who did not comprehend the choice that they made in the 2000 referendum, and so were not prepared or encouraged to make the total mental shift that required them to be leading from 10-10-10 and after. So what happened before continues to happen today, and we are very often left playing catch-up to the rest of the region. That's not to say that there is no hope for serious improvement, Madam Chair. Changing the status quo is possible, but that requires serious and unpopular decisions to be made, both here in Parliament and across the road. Decisions that may not find favor in the public or with our colleagues, both within and outside of party lines. Are we ready for that? To acknowledge that this role we hold today is not meant to be forever, that we are public servants and that to serve the public means our own interests, our families' interests, and for those who have them, their benefactors' interests come second, third, and fourth to the nation's. That is an unpopular decision, and it might mean a lower vote count, but it still would be the right decision for the country. Are we ready for that? Because if we are, then the path to true progress is ours to take. And if we are not, I'm not worried, Madam Chair. A generation of young people and those coming after them who are already growing increasingly critical of decisions taken, both past and current, will ensure that those on the wrong side of history will be held accountable. 15 years is a milestone in many cultures, Madam Chair. While we look behind us to measure how far we've come, let's not forget to assess how far we have left to travel before we can actually say that we can stand on our own. Once we do that, honestly and openly, the next 15 years should be filled with focused and intentional action on the part of every single person who calls St. Maarten home. Self-reflection, integrity, and accountability. Once we reach there, then we can truly call ourselves the Friendly Island. Happy Constitution Day. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Peterson, for your words on this Constitution Day. Thank you, all members of Parliament, the faction leaders who have spoken on behalf of their factions in Parliament. Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Council of Ministers, Your Excellency, the Governor. I stand, of course I do not stand, I'm sitting. I wish I was standing, because then the pride that I feel would have been even more evident. So I sit here today proud of every day, every paper, every drop of sweat and every tear. Proud because when in 2000, others and I told the world that we could do it, I was convinced we could, and I still am. In fact, I told them this even earlier, in 1994, but I accepted the people's choice at that time. This country status, for me, was never about titles or names. It was about one simple, powerful principle: no taxation without representation. It was about bringing government closer to the people. Our success in 2000, the year 2000, the year of the referendum, was rooted in unity. Unity amongst political parties. Unity amongst politicians. That was a unity no one could get in between. We stepped over our own political shadows in the interest of the people. That was vision. A vision birthed in the early 90s, one of full internal self-government in sovereign association, VISA. Our language was clear. Our purpose was defined. We said at the time, former Governor Holliday, that our name would be Saint Maarten, not Sint Maarten. And our people would come first. But we faltered. And now today, that vision must be redefined in the complexities of today. I have come to realize how void we are of our own history. Because if we truly knew it, we would be more focused, more determined about St. Martin's future. After the euphoria of 10-10-10 settled, we failed to brace ourselves for the humongous task of leading a small island developing state. And of course, there is more than enough blame to go around. Because you see, as long as we keep blaming, we avoid taking responsibility. Blame is nothing more than a cop-out. Blame absolves us of the duty to look in the mirror and ask, what have we done with the opportunity we fought so hard to gain? We ask for autonomy, for the right to decide our destiny, and we got it. But autonomy is not a trophy, it's a task, a responsibility we must renew every single day by how we govern, how we serve, and how we care for our people. We thought a new constitutional status would automatically bring progress, but progress is not written into constitutions. It is built by people. It is shaped by integrity, discipline, and vision, and it can vanish if we lose sight of those values. Today, 15 years later, we stand at another crossroads, not one defined by a referendum or a legal status, but one defined by trust. The trust of the people in their government, in their political system, and even in the promise of 10-10-10 itself. If 10-10-10 was the day of birth, then today we must ask, have we grown? Have we matured as a nation? Have we lived up to the ideals that drove us to seek self-government, fairness, accountability, and opportunity for all? Because you see, our journey is not just constitutional, it is moral. It's about the soul of a people who wanted to stand tall, not just administratively, but in dignity and self-respect. And we, and my emphasis throughout this discourse has been, we must admit where we fell short. We must be honest about what went wrong, but above all, we must be courageous enough to move forward, to renew the social contract between government and people. Many of my waking moments are spent thinking about how we can reset. Reset without going back and without pausing our future, because St. Maarten cannot afford to stand still. We must evolve with clarity, with courage, and with conviction. The St. Maarten I back then dreamt of, the St. Maarten we all envisioned, is one where our children see government not as something above them, but as something of them, where our debates are about ideas, not personalities, where our economy serves the people, not the few. To achieve that, we must return to the principles that guided us in the 90s: unity in purpose, courage to confront hard truths, and faith in the capacity of our people. And above all, a deep, abiding love for this island, both sides of it. We cannot speak of St. Maarten's future without acknowledging our shared history as St. Maarten. As we commemorate this day, I call for a reawakening, not to the slogans of the past, but to the spirit of 10-10-10, the spirit of belief, the spirit of collaboration, the spirit that said we can do it because we still can. So we mark this day not as a celebration of perfection, but as a reminder of potential, the potential of a people who once dared to believe they could govern themselves and still can. Self-government was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be ours. And because it is ours, we must protect it, nurture it, and make it worthy of the generations that will inherit it. So as we look ahead, let us do so with clear eyes and steady hands, not blinded by nostalgia, not burdened by blame, but guided by purpose. The story of 10-10-10 is still being written. It is written in every act of courage, every honest decision, every young person who refuses to give up on this, their island. And if history has taught us anything, it is this: St. Maarten rises when St. Maarten remembers who she is. Let us never, ever forget that. Happy Constitution Day, St. Maarten. With this, members of Parliament, distinguished guests, we have come to the end of the solemn meeting of Parliament convened on the occasion of the 15th anniversary of constituent country status of St. Maarten. I invite the Reception and Departure Committee to accompany His Excellency the Governor and his entourage to the lobby area, and I ask everyone to rise for the exit of His Excellency the Governor. You may sit. Thank you. I want to thank the members of the Reception and Departure Committee for the splendid and dignified manner in which you have carried out these duties. You are herewith discharged of your duties. These duties are an important part of our constitutional state. Members of Parliament, ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I thank all of you for your presence at this meeting. It really means something for the Parliament of St. Maarten. Thank you, and I hereby close this solemn meeting of Parliament. Meeting closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated as the President of Parliament and the Prime Minister, accompanied by the Secretary General of Parliament and the Secretary General of the Council of Ministers, exit the hall and make their way to the lobby area. I would now like to invite the members of Parliament to leave the hall to the lobby area. The former Presidents of Parliament, along with the former Secretaries General of Parliament, will now exit the hall and make their way to the lobby area. I kindly ask that the remaining guests kindly remain seated as we observe through the screens the placing of the Parliament time capsule and the unveiling of the Legacy Lane. I now pass the proceedings over to my colleague, Ms. Valerie Brazier, who will guide us through the next segment of the ceremony from the lobby area.
His Excellency, the Governor Ajamu Bailey, President of Parliament, the Honorable Sarah Westcott Williams, Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Luc Mercelina, Members of Parliament, former Presidents of Parliament, former Secretaries General of Parliament, invited dignitaries and guests, ladies and gentlemen present, and those following via the live broadcast. Good morning, and welcome to this segment of the ceremony where we will be placing the Parliament time capsule and unveiling the Legacy Lane portraits in celebration of the 15 years of Parliament and 15 years of country, St. Maarten. At this time, I would like to call forward the Secretary General of the Parliament of St. Maarten, Mr. Garrick Richardson, for his address as it regards the significance of the two projects being finalized today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Richardson.
Good morning. I will be very brief because time is of essence. But today we are proud also from the part of the Secretariat to place the time capsule in this building that we currently have the Parliament of St. Maarten in. And the time capsule is stories and messages from the current members of Parliament to the future members of Parliament in 15 years. The intention is that this time capsule will be opened on October 10th, 2040, where maybe some of us might still be around, and maybe some of us might not be in this building, but we will be able to hear, well, the persons then will be able to hear and know the stories of what happened at this point in our history, and learn from that as well. Next today, another project that we have been working on for the 15 years of Parliament and the 15 years of Country St. Maarten is the unveiling of the Legacy Lane. The Legacy Lane is a portrait wall of former presidents of Parliament and former secretaries general of Parliament. This is common in all parliaments, quite some parliaments around the world. However, we were never able to establish it. And this year, the Secretariat, with the blessing of the Presidium, decided to do so. So in a few moments, this wall will be unveiled, and it goes to show the men and women who have strived to put this parliament where it was, where it is, and where it should be in the future. So with that, I will close. Thank you all.
I now invite the President of Parliament for her official address on this occasion.
Thank you, Valerie. Rest me after the explanation given by our Secretary General of the importance of what we're doing here today, the task of thanking the Secretariat of Parliament, thanking you for thinking along with us, and not only thinking, but making it happen. I know sometimes the requests and the ideas that come to you might seem impossible, but until now, you have always made it happen. This is extremely important as we, all of us here today, establish this moment in history for generations and future members of Parliament to come. I want to thank the members of Parliament who contributed to the time capsule by putting a thought or something else in that capsule there. It tells us that we have hope for our country. It tells us that we believe that the work that we have done will be carried on in the benefit of the people of St. Maarten. That's a good feeling, a feeling that I want to share with all of you here today, and thank you for your presence and your contribution in whatever way to building the Parliament of St. Maarten, the epitome of democracy. Let us uphold that in all that we do. Congratulations, Secretary General and your entire staff. Thank all of you for bringing us this far at this momentous occasion in the celebration of the country status of St. Maarten. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady Sarah Westcott Williams. I would now like to invite the Presidium of Parliament forward. Again, MP Sarah Westcott Williams, President of Parliament, MP Christopher Weaver, First Vice President, and MP Ludmilla De Weaver, Second Vice President, for the official placing of the time capsule. The time capsule consists of letters from current members of Parliament to the members of Parliament of the future, contributions by staff of the Secretariat of Parliament, the newspaper of Thursday, October 9th of this current year, and the most recent committee compositions, amongst other things. The staff of the Secretariat of Parliament will now guide the Secretary General and the Presidium over to the place where the capsule will be placed. And of course, a plaque will also be placed on the wall, and that is being prepared. As they're preparing the plaque, I would like to reiterate the contents of the time capsule. The time capsule consists of letters from current members of Parliament to the members of Parliament of the future, contributions by the staff of the Secretariat of the Parliament of St. Maarten, the newspaper of Thursday, October 9th, 2025, and the most recent committee compositions, amongst other items. Okay. We'll have the staff of the Secretariat will now hand over the plaque to the President of Parliament, who will be placing it so that in the future we can remember where the capsule was placed.
Parliament of St. Maarten in celebration of 15 years of Parliament. This time capsule was sealed on October the 13th, 2025, to be opened on October the 10th, 2040. A glimpse of today for our leaders of tomorrow.
And of course, we would like to capture this moment for posterity. I would like to invite the current members of Parliament to join the Presidium for a picture moment.
Okay. Again, next one, and thank you.
All right, thank you everyone, and kindly your attention once again for the second unveiling. Ladies and gentlemen, I kindly ask your attention at the curtained area, so you might want to turn around facing the curtained area, where we will now have the unveiling of the portraits in the legacy lane. I now invite all past presidents and secretaries general of the Parliament of St. Maarten to kindly step forward. Okay. Your service to this country will forever be enshrined in the history of St. Maarten. When the people of St. Maarten and visitors alike enter this house, they will be reminded of those who were given the honor and responsibility to lead this esteemed institution. And we'll now look to the wall on our left. Where the staff of the Secretariat of Parliament will once again reveal the wall of the past Secretaries General of the Parliament of St. Maarten. Once again, on behalf of Parliament, I would like to thank these individuals for their service and contribution to this esteemed institution. Ladies and gentlemen, the time capsule placed here in the walls of this Parliament building stands as a message to the future, a glimpse of today for our leaders of tomorrow. The legacy lane unveiled here today honors those who have served before us, the presidents, secretaries general, helping to shape this Parliament into the institution that it is today and that which it desires to be. On behalf of the Parliament of St. Maarten, I extend heartfelt appreciation To all who made this ceremony possible, the project teams of the Secretariat of the Parliament of St. Maarten, the entire Secretariat of the Parliament of St. Maarten, the President of the Parliament of St. Maarten, the current members, and also the former function holders, thank you. I now hand back over the proceedings to my colleague, Mr. Rosencio Hassel, who will ensure the orderly exit from the Legislative Hall.
Thank you all for your patience. The Council of Ministers may now also exit the hall and make their way to the entrance of the Parliament building. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. You may now also exit the hall to make your way outside the building to be transported to the Festival Village. We encourage all at home to go to the Facebook page of the Department of Culture of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport to follow the celebrations taking place at the Festival Village. Thank you.